in the challenges which we face, because God is with us. If I think back a few years earlier to when I was about to begin studying theology, I remember talking to my grandfather, Bishop William Town, can bring just one other. I thought, well, that's not. But now I understand that those were words of wisdom. I think that my grandfather wanted to warn me of the risks of setting expectations which can lead to disappointment. He also was very subtly saying that it wasn't just my job. Realizing that ministry, the important work was the important work of all baptized Christians, both priests. The trouble with setting expectations around trying to save the world is that men and women tend to create organizations, shrines, churches, institutions, beliefs that reflect and support their own beliefs. The institutions and structures may well be well-intentioned and helpful in creating a good society in which to live, but they can also be abused and/or create unforeseen negative repercussions. Now, this has always been the case throughout history. The kings and religious leaders of the 11th to 13th centuries, well, they thought it was a good idea to lead the Crusades to save Jerusalem and the Holy Land from Muslim rulers. Today, we know of the abuses that occurred and the tragic cost of human life. And there are still severe repercussions being felt even today. The expansion of the British Empire was great for England and for the church. But we now know many of the costs of colonialism for many indigenous people. I believe that the plan to create Israel as an independent state as far back as 1918 was well-intentioned, but we know of the continuing violence even to this day. The entire region has never experienced true peace. These are just a few of the many possible examples where the plans of men and women have gone astray, or they've been abused or caused significant unintended and unexpected harm. While we are told in the scriptures that God created men and women in his own image, it has often been commented that in reality, men and women have often created God in their image. It is therefore so very important that we strive to be faithful in following God's plan for us and not just try to fit God into our plans for ourselves. All of today's readings contain some element of disappointed or unrealized expectations. God expected the people of Israel to be faithful. And to assist in this, a temple was built and a system of worship and ritual sacrifice was established. After the death of King Solomon, the kingdom was divided in two, Israel in the north and Judah, which included Jerusalem in the south. At the time of today's Old Testament reading, Judah is under attack by the Assyrians. All of the villages in the plains have been overrun, and their primary city of Jerusalem is under siege. Isaiah believes that this is all punishment for the people of Judah forsaking God and becoming corrupt. He compares them to the disobedient people of Sodom and Gomorrah. Isaiah says that because of their disobedience, their worship and sacrifices have become hypocritical, and God would no longer listen to their prayers. He was very blunt, speaking for God, saying, I have had enough of burnt offerings. Trample my courts no more. Bringing offerings is futile. Incense is an abomination to me. I cannot endure solemn sacrifices with iniquity. Even though you make many prayers, I will not listen. Your hands are full of blood. Well, there's no doubt about it. God isn't very happy. And yet, even then, there is hope for God's people. Isaiah says, wash yourselves, make yourselves clean. Remove the evil of your doings from before my eyes. Cease to do evil. And if we were to read on into just the next verse, we hear what God expects of the people as they reject their evil ways. He says, learn to do good. Seek justice. Rescue the oppressed. Defend the orphan. Plead for the widow. God doesn't want hollow ritual, but rather faith that is put into tangible action. In the letter to the Hebrews, we hear, now faith is the assurance of things hoped for, the conviction of things not seen. The writer tells us of God's approval of Abraham, Sarah, and their descendants, who persevered in faith even though they did not achieve their goal of receiving their expected homeland. A home not of this land, but a heavenly home. However, because of their faith, God has indeed prepared a city for them. Those who are faithful will indeed live with God, and God with them. Then the end of today's gospel reading is the people's expectation of experiencing the coming of the kingdom of God. It is an expectation which has caused great disappointment for a countless number of people throughout history. However, Luke records Jesus telling his disciples, do not be afraid, little flock, for it is your Father's good pleasure to give you the kingdom. Jesus tells the disciples to sell their possessions and give alms, to make purses that do not wear out, an unfailing treasure in heaven. He tells them, and he tells us, that where your treasure is, there your heart will be also. He also tells them, and us, that we have to be ready as faithful slaves because the Son of Man is coming at an unexpected hour. That is Jesus' expectation of us, that we be ready. I believe that to be ready means that we need to be faithful at any time and hopefully at all times. At least that we persevere in trying to be faithful at all times. Further on in Luke's Gospel, in chapter 17, we are told, the kingdom of God is not coming in things that can be observed, nor will they say, look, here it is, or there it is. For in fact, the kingdom of God is among you. So let's be ready. Let's be faithful. That is what God expects of us. If you want to save the world, then a good place to start is with our own life. I believe that the collect for today wonderfully expresses both our personal need and God's expectation of us. It's a prayer which